The Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast presented by Omaha Steaks. Josh all alone with you guys in the studio today because we've got a lot of other podcast episodes that we're going to be filming and recording throughout the course of today. And this is just the first one because while I'm waiting on Blake to get here, Justin's in Florida, took his family to Disney World, so he won't be here for this week. But I wanted to come to you guys talking about OTAs week 2. We talked last week, some of the news and notes and things that happened in OTAs week 1, the first 3-day session that the Browns had of their spring voluntary practices. And now we've got a couple days under our belt here in week 2. Nothing crazy, nothing, that's like a hot hitting topic or anything, but just want to fill you guys in on some of the news and notes coming out of Berea and our thoughts on the matter. Before I dive in to my notes here, I just want to remind you guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe on YouTube. We are getting very, very close to 10,000 subscribers. We can't wait to get there. And you guys are doing your part in helping support the show. And we appreciate that so much. And also make sure you guys follow us on all the social medias at The Dogs Podcast. And if you want more dogs content, head to jointhedogs.com to become an official Dog Pack member on their Patreon page. Just another great way for you to get more content from us, engage with us and everybody in the Dog Pack community, especially on the private Discord. That thing is popping all the time. It's awesome. And it's just a great way to help support the show so we can continue to do more and more podcast episodes and more content and events and things that we've got scheduled throughout the summer. Stay tuned. There is some big things potentially down the pipeline coming your way from the Dogs Podcast. So let's talk about OTAs. Like I mentioned, this is week 2, the second session. Yesterday was, I made my notes yesterday, so I kind of messed this up a little bit, but it was the 28th through today, the 30th is the final day of session 2. The third and final OTA session will be next Monday through Thursday, June 3rd through 6th. Now, as soon as they wrap up these first 3 or the 3 OTA sessions, the voluntary mini camp, whatever you want to call them, voluntary spring practices, once those are over, then the Browns will have mandatory veteran mini camp where the team has to report, and I believe that starts on June 11th. I know that's in my notes here somewhere, and I will find it for sure, but I'm pretty sure that it's June 11th. That'll be like a 3-day mini camp, and then the team goes on summer break, which is, you had your spring activities, you had your draft, your rookie mini camp, now your OTAs, and then your veteran mini camp in April, May, first half of June, boom, done. Team goes on summer break where Deshaun Watson will probably take the receivers, David Njoku, maybe even Trayton Welch, who knows, take those guys on vacation somewhere so they can go do their chemistry thing, build some camaraderie, work out together on the beach, and just enjoy being a human being for a month until everybody has to come back for training camp in July. So there is going to be this big break coming up. So we want to make sure that we have you guys up to date on everything. But the one thing I did want to talk about here, speaking of the OTAs, these organized team activities, there's some news and information coming out regarding those just in general, not just for the Browns, but for the entire NFL. And the NFLPA, the NFL Players Association, they're actually trying to overhaul this entire spring off-season program starting as soon as next year in 2025. So this, if they get their way, the NFLPA and what they end up wanting to do here, which I'll talk about, but if this happens, this right now will be the last year that the NFL teams have these voluntary spring OTAs. So the NFLPA wants to eliminate the voluntary OTAs and the mini camps altogether. So no rookie mini camp, no veteran mini camp, none of it, gone. And instead, they want to implement an extended ramp up period into training camp in July. So by their plan, players would actually report to their team facilities in mid-June or early July, rather than, like I mentioned, starting in May and working through, the first part of June and then having this summer break, like this month or 5-week period where they're not reporting. They have their own time to go do their thing. And then they report back in mid to late July. So what the NFLPA wants to do is say, none of the spring stuff. So basically for the veterans, it'd be an extended off season. So you would have all the time through May, through June. You wouldn't have to worry about reporting or doing anything. And then things would start like late June, mid to late June, ramping up into that training camp into July. So when I first saw this, so I'll go through a couple thought processes here. When I first saw this, I thought it actually made a little bit more sense to me just on first look to just kind of keep these football activities together. You know, the players would get, like I mentioned, just a little bit of a more extended off season through May and June before they have to come back. And I don't know. I thought, hey, maybe this would help with the influx of injuries that we've been seeing in recent seasons. I mean, these guys would have a little bit more time to, you know, condition, practice, and train in their facilities into training camp rather than doing what they're doing right now and then having this month-long break and then coming back and diving right into training camp. But Browns defensive tackle Shelby Harris actually has his own opinions on this. And I started to read a little bit more about this whole proposal and everything from the players' side of things. And I just want to read what Shelby Harris posted on Twitter and what he's been saying about this whole NFLPA proposal to do away with these OTAs. So his first quote on X, Shelby Harris says, "I'm so confused how they are trying to twist this into saying players want to start camp at the end of June. Nobody wants anything to do with this change." And that wasn't the only thing he said. He continued, let's see, there was this tweet from Albert Breer that Shelby Harris retweeted. He said, this is from Albert Breer, says, "Let's just say this new proposal to scrap off-season programs, start training camp with a ramp-up period in June, and eliminate the annual summer break in the NFL calendar is going over like the Hindenburg with coaches and front office people." Shelby Harris reposted that saying, players don't want this either. So not only do the coaches and front office people not want this new proposal, the players don't either. So it seems like everybody's in favor of the way things are. Let's have these, and especially for the veterans. And the more I thought about this, I'm like, okay, I guess I understand what they're saying here, because especially for these veteran players, these OTAs, these spring practices, this stuff's voluntary. They don't have to be there. And you see some of the Browns players, Myles Garrett, Joel Bitonio, Mari Cooper, David Njoku, these guys are not coming to these voluntary practices. Of course, you have other guys, you know, it's up to you. It's up to your discretion if you want to show up and practice, if you just want to stay in the facility and work out maybe while everybody else is out on the field, or if you don't want to report at all. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. And if they do away with this voluntary, you know, spring practice sessions, that means, because a lot of these veterans are taking this time off anyway, so they're getting their extended off season, plus they get this summer break. So, and then you've got John Heath on Twitter says, "It's so strange to me when the NFLPA proposes something the players are against. Who are the NFLPA's leadership aiming to please?" And Shelby Harris says, "That's what we are wondering too." So it seems like, and you know, just kind of reading through a little bit more of this report that I saw, I'm just going to read some of what I screenshotted here. "If a change were to happen, it would have to be agreed to by the team owners, and something that it could play a role in the NFL going to 18 games in the regular season. Going from 17 to 18 games seems inevitable and just a matter of when, not if. Training camp is a gauntlet in its own right and getting ready for the NFL season. So lasting in parts of 3 months seems like a bit much," which I understand that now, because now you're talking about training camp instead of being half of July and August. Now you're talking probably half of June, all of July and August. Though much of the early part of the game would be a ramp up of strength and conditioning. As it currently stands, players normally have a lot of June and into late July off as a time to get away. With the change, it would make May more of the off month for all. You know, we've been talking a lot more recently about these NFL players being human beings. They've got families, they've got other things in their life. Now, of course, I understand. I'm sure there's people watching this and listening to this are going to say, these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. They should be there all year round. Whatever, you know, you can have your views on money and at what certain price point you get paid, do you stop having the privilege of being a human? But I don't think there's any. So these guys need time off. We know that the NFL season is a total grind. It lasts for a long time. These guys report in late July. They go in late July, August, September, October, November, December, January, and then if you're playing through the playoffs, obviously it's all of January. And hopefully, if you're the right team, if you're doing the best that season, you're going into February as well. And then you turn around, you have this short off season, and all of a sudden it's April, it's draft, it's May, there's OTAs. I mean, it's June, and all of a sudden you're looking at, well, training camp's next month. I think mentally these guys need a break, and I originally, when I saw it, I thought, okay, I don't really understand the big deal about this, but then reading from the player's perspective made a little more sense. So let me know what you guys think about this proposal from the NFLPA to, just completely do away with OTAs and the spring practice program and just do a very long extended training camp through the summer and into the season. I am definitely, the more I've looked into this and thought about it, definitely more on the players' side of things now, where let's not do that to these guys. This is what they do year round anyway, whether they're at the facility or just training on their own and staying sharp. So, let's give them that summer break without forcing them into, facility time away from their families. They miss most of their kids' school years as it is. Let them have the summer with their kids and their families and leave it as it is if that's what the players are most comfortable with. So I'll get Blake's opinion on this, and maybe we'll wait till next week and talk to Justin about it too and just see if they've got any other viewpoints or anything about this. But I think if the coaches, front office, and players are all against it, I would imagine it would have a hard time getting the support it needs to pass. Okay, more great news. We talked about it last week. Deshaun Watson once again throwing at OTAs to kick off the week, which would have been on Tuesday. And, that was during the open media session. So, it seems like the Browns are very comfortable. Deshaun Watson's very comfortable having the media be present for his throwing. They're not trying to hide anything. They're not trying to say, well, okay, he might not be 100%. We want him out here, but we don't want anybody to see him. They don't care. He's wide open to the media. They're letting him throw. And, we got a couple more highlight clips. We got a nice video of Deshaun Watson throwing a nice deep pass to Elijah Moore, who, by the way, Elijah Moore, we'll talk about in a little bit, but he was not present last week during the first session of OTAs, but he is there this week. So I mentioned it last week. I'll do it again just for all of you nonsense, haters out there. I get that this is May. I get that this is helmets and shorts. They're not playing against a defense. I understand all these things. What this specifically, there were a couple highlight videos of Deshaun Watson throwing nice passes, but it was the one to Elijah Moore that I really watched this one a couple times, and here's why, okay? I slowed it down because I wanted to see the mechanics of him throwing. I don't care if there's no defenders on Elijah Moore. I don't care about any of that stuff. I care about, because whether Deshaun Watson's in pads or just out there throwing the ball in a, orchestrated, controlled drill, what does his throwing motion look like? He just had major surgery on a broken glenoid or fractured glenoid bone in his throwing shoulder, something that we really don't have a whole lot of precedent for how a professional NFL quarterback recovers from that type of injury. There, as far as I know, there haven't been any others to this degree or what Watson actually sustained himself. So I need to see it. I want to know, what does he look like out there throwing? Last week, Kevin Stefanski was quoted saying Watson's out there, he looks like himself. And after watching the video slowed down, I agree. I think he really does look like himself. His release looks good. It looks normal, fluid. The ball comes out with good velocity. He's got a tight spiral. And, again, you're probably thinking it's OTAs. Who cares about those kinds of things? One fear that many fans had this entire time, maybe still have, is the throwing motion. Look, and we use it all the time as the example. Look at the throwing motion of Cam Newton after he had both of his shoulder surgeries. His throwing motion got shorter. It started looking more like he was shot putting the throws. He couldn't really elongate his arm, extend. The deep throws were gone. Everything was short and just looked pushed. And it wasn't fluid anymore. And so far, I haven't seen any of that with any of the clips, the highlight reels, the footage that has come out of Deshaun Watson throwing at camp. He truly does look normal. It looks like he never injured that shoulder. It looks fluid. And that's what I have been the most, if I'm apprehensive about anything with Deshaun Watson, it's not his playing on the field. You guys know how I feel about that. I come from the perspective of, actually, when he played in 2023, he actually played pretty damn well, all things considering. We only got 3. Actually, we didn't even get 3 games. We got 2.5 games without him having a shoulder injury. He injured the shoulder in the 3rd game against Tennessee. And every time we saw him on the field after that, he had something wrong with his shoulder. So we did not get a whole lot of opportunity to see what he could do without that shoulder injury. But to see him back on the field, throwing the ball, the way that he is, and everything just looks natural again. And you might hate Deshaun Watson, but I'm telling you, you know what, if you hate him, you probably don't want to listen to this anyway. But for everybody else, you guys have to understand. Take the media headlines and the media BS out of it. Deshaun Watson is one of the best quarterback athlete players we have at the professional level in sports today. I know that's going to throw some people for a loop. You're going to say, yeah, right, he hasn't proved it since 2020, blah, blah. Just athletically, this guy is a true athlete, and he has been a successful quarterback at every level, including the NFL. There's a reason why the Browns did what they did to bring him in. And what I'm just trying to get across here is that watching the videos of him throwing already here in May after the shoulder surgery encourages me that the athlete that is Deshaun Watson at quarterback is still there. And the nice thing is this wasn't a knee injury. This wasn't an ACL or an Achilles or something like these other quarterbacks are coming back from. It's an upper body. Now, I get it's his throwing shoulder, but the lower body stuff, you really have to be more concerned. Oh, is this guy going to play more hesitant? Is he not going to run? Is he going to be favoring something? Is there a re-injury risk? By all accounts, the surgery was a complete success. 100% recovery is expected. And so far, we have no reason to suspect anything else. So I read that now there's a possibility or, a hope that maybe Deshaun will be doing back-to-back throwing days whenever the mandatory minicamp starts in. I was right, June 11th. Because right now at OTAs, he's doing an every other schedule. So he'll throw on Tuesday, he'll do mental reps and not throw the ball on during drills on Wednesday, and then Thursday back to throwing. So again, it's another great sign that it's not just 1 out of 3 that he's thrown. He's throwing 2 out of 3. So he's definitely on the right track. He's going to be back. He's going to be okay. I have full confidence in that. And this hope now that I was reading this, they're saying now even, another 10 days from now, 11 days from now, he could possibly come into that veteran minicamp throwing back-to-back days, which would be another big step, another huge milestone in his recovery. They said he could possibly be out there throwing during the offense versus defense drills, which again, another big step in the recovery. So we'll see. We'll kind of see what the reports and what the news looks like about him whenever that veteran minicamp in June 11th gets a little bit closer. But again, the fact that we're even speculating here in May that just less than 2 weeks away, he could be doing back-to-back throwing days. He could be running offensive drills against defensive fronts and all this kind of thing. That is very, very great news if you're a Browns fan, because if you're a Browns fan and you want this team to succeed, then you want Deshaun Watson to succeed, because this team does not succeed without the quarterback. We've seen that across the league. I don't care how great New York Jets, awesome defense, great team all around. They lose their quarterback, done. Don't even have to talk about him anymore because they don't have a shot. Now, the Browns were able to pull some magic out of their butts last year with some quarterback Russian roulette, and they made some magic and got to the playoffs, but that's not repeatable every single year. We need our guy healthy, on the field, ready to go. So again, I've been saying this to people on social media, these so-called fans. I'm sorry, I hate to call, I don't like to call out anybody's fandom, but the people that say, oh, I root for the Cleveland Browns, but I'm rooting for Deshaun Watson to fail because I don't like him, then you're not rooting for the Cleveland Browns. I'm sorry. Like, if you don't want Deshaun Watson to succeed, then you're saying you don't want the Browns to succeed. Prove me otherwise. Argue with me all you want. That's the way I see it. And I just don't understand why you wouldn't want every single player who's on this roster to be the best that they could possibly be. So good news about Deshaun Watson. Again, 2 weeks in a row now, we get to talk about improvements and progression and all these good things leading into the final OTAs next week, veteran minicamp, and then the summer break before we get training camp in July. This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Dog Pack Father's Day is right around the corner. So what do you give the man who has essentially everything he already needs? I mean, it's always so hard at Father's Day and on dad's birthdays and things like that. So what does this guy even really need? Well, let me make it easy for you guys. Get him steak and burgers and brats and jumbo franks and chicken and everything that Omaha Steaks has to offer, because dads want meat, and it's the perfect gift because you know he's going to use it. It's grilling season. Your dad, your grandpa, these guys, you as a dad, we're going to be grilling out all summer long. So get things kicked off the right way with Omaha Steaks for Father's Day. It's what I get my dad, my grandpa, my father-in-law every year for Father's Day because I know they're going to use it. They love the food, and it just goes a long way. They can continue. I mean, obviously, they grill out once, twice, 3 times, and they just keep using the food that you got them for Father's Day. It's the perfect gift. And right now, when you go to omahasteaks.com, use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out for an additional discount when you shop the gourmet gift packages for Father's Day. The Father's Day experts at Omaha Steaks are making this very easy for you guys to put a smile on the big guys' faces this summer. They've got hand-selected gift packages starting at just $89 for Father's Day. And like I said, omahasteaks.com, use that promo code DAWGS when you check out for an additional discount on your order. So don't stress, don't fret, make Father's Day easy for all the dads in your life. And if your wife or your kids are saying, hey, Dad, what do you want for Father's Day? Just tell them, get me some damn good food from Omaha Steaks. omahasteaks.com, promo code DAWGS, DAWGS when you check out. Shop the Father's Day selection, all their gift packages starting at $89. And with that promo code DAWGS when you check out, you get an additional discount on your order. So don't wait. Get everything ready to go now. omahasteaks.com, promo code DAWGS. Get all the dads in your life the perfect gift for Father's Day. So let's talk about Elijah Moore, the Browns' presumed number 3 receiver in the pecking order this year. Of course, they got Amari Cooper. They just traded for and paid to extend Jerry Jeudy. So Elijah Moore is the number 3, and he is back this week, like I mentioned at the top of the show, in the second round of OTAs here. Now, Elijah Moore last week in the first round of OTAs, he did receive some criticism, some speculation on social media. Like I said, he skipped last week. Fans, media, of course the media, speculating that Elijah Moore, maybe he's unhappy with his situation. The Browns, like I said, traded for, extended Jerry Jeudy. Here's Elijah Moore, last year of his deal. He doesn't have an extension or anything like that. Sunday, Elijah Moore on X posted, and I'm going to do my best with this. He said, outwork everyone. That's always been my mindset. F all the what he said, he thinks, she thinks. 1 minute they're on you, 1 minute they're not. The next they're back on you. Just work. Never stop. F them, we ball. God the glory for it all. Y'all be up and down. God stays solid. Okay, again, not always a fan of when these players do these cryptic tweets and stuff online. My response is typically like, if you want your extension, if you want to earn targets and a bigger role in the offense, be there. I understand this is voluntary, but a guy like Amari Cooper is a veteran who does not need to be there. He is the wide receiver 1. He has earned everything that he has on this team, and we are fully confident that he will produce as long as he's healthy. So Elijah, kind of need to be there, dude. And I think he got that message. So like I said, he's back. He's there this week. And this has been my stance on Elijah Moore, and it has not changed. I still think that Elijah Moore is a solid NFL wide receiver. I really do. I think he has been utilized incorrectly pretty much his entire career. Even with the Browns last season, they used him a lot early on as a slot receiver. So let's talk about this. For the first 7 weeks, Elijah Moore's slot percentage was 50 to 60% of the snaps each game. After that, week 7, the snaps kind of flipped, and he was lining up out wide more often. And when he started lining up out wide, you saw games where his production improved over those first 7 games of the year. He had his biggest games. He had 6 for 60, 4 catches for 83, and 5 catches for 61 yards. And those all came in that stretch when he was at 55% or higher. And I think 55 was the lower. Everything else was 60 or maybe 65 and above. When he was lined up out wide, he had a 70% out wide in week 17 against the New York Jets. We saw him have a great game in that one. And I know there's this notion, and I think the Browns, they start the season this year in 2024 with a better understanding of where you can best utilize your wide receiver in Elijah Moore. I mean, he's got the speed, he's got the contested catch ability to operate on the outside, and I think that, people have this misconception that just because a guy is a smaller bodied receiver, well, that's a slot receiver. Well, he's 5'10", 185 pounds. That's a slot receiver. That's not necessarily the case. I think that Elijah Moore is a better outside receiver what you need to be a good slot receiver is you got to be able to operate that intermediate area of the field. You got to be able to create separation. Your route running's got to be on point. And it just seems like Elijah Moore's skill set is a little bit more better utilized on the outside. So if it were me, this is what I'm pushing for. This is what I'm hoping for. I think we're going to see a lot more of Jerry Jeudy lined up in the slot. Jerry Jeudy has a very good yards after catch ability that we will be talking about as the season gets closer, and we'll hype him up a little bit because there are some deeper metrics that show Jerry Jeudy is a dangerous weapon once you get the ball into his hands. I think that, Amari Cooper, and then is on the outside. You're going to have a mix of Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman on the outside opposite of Amari Cooper. Obviously, Elijah Moore is going to bounce between the slot and outside. These guys pretty much all do. Jerry Jeudy's going to do it. Amari Cooper does it. But I think that the snap percentages for Elijah Moore are going to be more in favor of his alignment out wide in 2024 than they were in 2023. So that's kind of my take on Elijah Moore. Just put him in the place where he, metrically, analytically, it shows that he produces the best, and just let him go and see what he can do. So I'm very excited to see what this offense looks like under Ken Dorsey with all of these guys ready to go here in 2024. Moving into Wyatt Teller. Last week, Wyatt Teller talked about rookie Zach Zinner. This week, he gave a little insight into the new offensive line coach, Andy Dickerson. Wyatt Teller, quote, said, "Coach Andy Dickerson, he's awesome. He's getting after us, making sure we're running, making sure that we're in the right places and everything like that." I mean, that doesn't change from coach to coach. It's a little bit of a transition. It's different. But at the end of the day, he learned under Bill Callahan. So a lot of his techniques, a lot of his jargon is Bill stuff. So I'm excited. Again, I'm excited about the entire offense. But the offensive line, I want to see how it looks under Andy Dickerson. Now, you guys, us, Browns fans in general, we love Bill Callahan, probably the greatest offensive line coach of all time in the league right now, all that kind of stuff. But, we also we've talked about it. We got to acknowledge there was a noticeable dip, a drop off in the run blocking production over these last couple seasons. I know a lot of that had to do with injuries, but overall, it was one area of the offense and the line specifically that seemed to be underperforming relative to the expectations. The expectations were this is a top 5 offensive line in the league. And I think pass blocking wasn't bad. I think pass blocking held its own, especially even last year, with all the injuries. But it's the run blocking stuff that it's just we should be doing a little bit better in that department. So, with Andy Dickerson most recently being the offensive line coach in Seattle, we know how Seattle under Pete Carroll, the Seahawks ran the ball a lot. They made use of some lesser talented offensive lines and still manufactured production and run games. So I am expecting to see run blocking be better in 2024. I'm expecting the run game to be better now that we've got Deontay Foreman and Jerome Ford coming back again. I think kind of take some work off of him, let Foreman. And we're really excited about Aiden Robbins. So we will see what happens with the running game. But speaking of the running backs, one guy that I've found some information about here, some updates that I wanted to, because he's a guy that slips our minds a lot too. The Browns did sign Nyheim Hines. And I think with all the talk about Nick Chubb's recovery from his knee injury, we've been talking a lot about Aiden Robbins. Obviously, we had him on the show, and we're very excited about him. Like I mentioned, Deontay Foreman, Jerome Ford. We have not seen a ton of updates on Nyheim Hines, and he's another guy. So the Browns don't just have Nick Chubb coming off a knee injury from last season. They've also got Nyheim Hines. Hines suffered, if you watched my running backs episode earlier in the offseason, you know the kind of backstory on Hines. I'll kind of refresh here. Suffered ACL injury in a jet skiing accident, just kind of a freak accident in his time off. I guess that would have been during the summer break last offseason. He was with the Bills back then. He missed the entire 2023 season. So this is where, we always talk about age with running backs and guys returning from injuries. So you look at a young guy like Jonathan Brooks, the rookie running back for the Carolina Panthers, tore his ACL back in November at Texas during the college football season, and he's already slated to return to practice in training camp for the Panthers. That's kind of his target date. If you talk to medical staff and stuff like that, they're hoping that he's ready to participate in drills and stuff starting in training camp. Nyheim Hines tore his ACL clear back in July, almost a year ago, and he's still not able to participate in any on-field activities. And again, like I said at the top of the show, this is voluntary OTAs. I get that. So really there's no need for Nyheim Hines to rush onto the field and do any drills. Just continue to recover, recoup, make sure you're healthy. And I get all that. But there was a quote from Nyheim Hines that seemed a little bit weird when I read it. So I'm going to go through the quote. We'll talk about it. You guys drop in the comments what you think, if there was anything in here, or was he just maybe rambling and didn't really have his timeline in his head correct. I don't know what the deal was, but here's what Nyheim Hines had to say. He said to the media, "You guys will not see me out here for OTAs during practice." And this was on May 22nd. "I should be ready to go for minicamp. The goal is to be ready right around August 1st or end of July, depending on how my leg comes around. But the goal is to be out there for week 1. Okay, so if you guys are following along, let's try to unpack this a little bit. Nyheim Hines says, "I should be ready to go for minicamp." Well, minicamp starts June 11th. That's like 10, 11 days from now. And then he said the goal is to be ready around August 1st or end of July. So now we're talking like a whole nother 2 months from now. So are you ready in 2 weeks or are you ready in 2 months? And then he says, but the goal is to be out there for week 1. Well, that's the second weekend in September, dude. So which is it? This quote really baffled me a little bit. I'm not 100% sure what the timeline really is. And then the one line that he had in this quote, between these like 3 different goals that he pointed out for his return to the field, he said, "It depends on how my leg comes around." So I don't know about you guys, but that does not give me any huge, overwhelming hope that Nyheim Hines is going to be making a big impact for the Browns here this season. Obviously, bringing him in, signing with Cleveland, his connection with Ken Dorsey from Buffalo. I mean, he talked about it. That was a main factor in why he signed with Cleveland. And it's very possible maybe I'm reading too much into this quote here. I don't know. It's May. I get it. He was probably put on the spot with a question from a reporter, and he's like, "I don't really know what to tell you. I'm just talking. And then they put the quote in writing, and here I am sitting here reading it, totally overanalyzing it. My wife would tell you that overanalyzing would probably be the case. But again, it just seemed a little bit weird. I have not, if you watch that running backs episode, I haven't been sold that Nyheim Hines even makes the roster from day one. Ever since we signed him, that was kind of my take. Like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what, if he actually does end up making the roster. I got nothing against the guy. I think he's a great player. I think he's got a very valuable skill set that would really help the Browns this season if he's healthy. But this is going to be his age 28 season, coming off a major ACL injury I'm guessing by the time he gets on the field, it's going to be over a year since he had the injury. It just does not bode well for his prospects of making this roster or, doing any sort of major impact for the team in 2024. And again, if Deontay Foreman, Aiden Robbins, if these guys show out in camp, along with Hines still being limited in practice, until August or even later, again, he might not make the team. It's just something to keep an eye on over the summer. Just don't forget that Nyheim Hines is here, but everything I read sounds like he's still recovering. Doesn't sound like he's ready to participate anytime soon. That's kind of my takeaway from it. Again, it could be totally wrong. We will see. The only reason that, again, this stands out to me is the contrast to the other guys. You hear about glowing reports from some of these ACL tears, 8, 9, 10 months after the surgery. They're out running again. They're on track for camp or, this date or that date. And I just get this overwhelming sense of uncertainty about Nyheim Hines and his leg, recovery from his ACL injury. So I could be wrong. He could be out there participating in the mini camp on June 11th or 12th. And I'm like, hey, look, Nyheim Hines is out there. Looks like he might be okay, good to go. Or maybe he comes out first day training camp in July and it's like, cool, hey, he's back. He's ready to roll. I just have not heard much about Nyheim Hines. And typically I feel like when you don't hear news about these guys, the saying, no news is good news. Not necessarily when you're talking about these injuries, because like with Deshaun Watson, the entire offseason, it's been, he's 100% recovery. They're expected for this date, expected this, expected that, ahead of schedule. You hear that all the time from these guys. So when you don't hear anything about somebody coming off of a major surgery, a major injury, it is a little bit concerning, at least in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think about Nyheim Hines and all that kind of stuff. And the last thing I just want to mention real quick, I won't do too much more because I think this is probably going a little longer than I had intended as an OTA update. But there has been some rumors, and I haven't found anything concrete linked to the Browns, but Mary Kay Cabot is at least speculating that and you gotta love the way she words things. And I don't have the quote in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was something like, if Deshaun Watson were to suggest the Browns bring in his former college teammate, wide receiver Hunter Renfrow, then the Browns may consider it. Great job, Mary Kay. If I suggest that you guys go get Omaha steaks because you like meat, if you're really big into steak burgers, you just might consider it. See, and that's just kind of it's the way she words these things. It just drives me nuts. But again, she is more plugged into the team than a lot of people. So the fact that she's throwing she was all over. The Browns could be one of the teams, in the running to go play in Brazil to open the season against the Eagles. And a lot of people are like, nah, that could never happen. Well, it turned out the Browns, she had all the facts right behind her speculation. And they ended up being the last of two teams to be decided between which one was going to go. So, again, looking into Hunter Renfrow, I'm not going to dive too much into it here. We'll have this discussion with Blake and Justin. We'll talk more about Hunter Renfrow, but man, I know I've seen a lot of people on social media because we've been posting about it and they're saying, man, the wide receiver room's stacked. We don't need any more players. And then of course there's the haters. Like, if Deshaun Watson can't do anything with these wide receivers that we already have, why waste any more assets? Like, any more assets? You're bringing a guy in on a contract, probably a 1-year deal just for camp to see what he's got. If he doesn't have anything, he doesn't even make the roster. But I do like Hunter Renfrow. I think that he's underrated as far as like route running and what he could add to the team. Now you want to talk about a good slot receiver, a good guy that can get open, move the chains, and be what everybody thought that Elijah Moore was supposed to be, which again, I think he's more of an outside guy than a slot guy. Hunter Renfrow, though, does have a really strong connection with Deshaun Watson dating back to Clemson. They play college together. He caught the game-winning touchdown pass against Alabama to win the national championship game. So we will see. And I don't doubt what Mary Kay says. If Deshaun Watson were to go to ownership or the front office guys and say, hey, I think you ought to give Hunter Renfrow a call and just kind of see if he's interested in coming in for a workout and see what he's got. Sure, I'm confident they would consider it. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that here on the show. The talk about Hunter Renfrow, nothing's been reported. There's nothing concrete, but just to put the idea out there in your guys' heads to add him to this wide receiver room would at the very least make training camp much more competitive and interesting and just give the Browns a better advantage as far as wide receiver. Because if somebody beats out Hunter Renfrow, well, that's great. That means that guy leveled up to the competition and showed out during camp and beat out a former Pro Bowler. Sweet. And if nobody outplays Hunter Renfrow and he comes in and he looks awesome and it's like we have to have this guy in the wide receiving core, well, why wouldn't you want as many great players on your team as possible? So we'll see what happens on that front. We'll keep you guys posted. Make sure you guys follow us on social media. We're posting so many times every day, just trying to keep the news cycle going, keep you guys updated with just rumors and things that are going on, just so nobody wakes up one day and says, I didn't even know they were interested in Hunter Renfrow. Well, we'll talk about it here just a little bit as far as the speculation goes. But other than all of that, there's not a ton of new information or updates from OTAs. It's just awesome that the Browns are back at it. It's exciting to see the team back on the field, getting ready for the 2024 season. I said it last week. I'm going to say it again as a Browns fan. It is just exciting anytime the team is being active and doing things to get ready and to get better to compete for the upcoming season. And speaking of Browns fans and being from Cleveland or Northeast Ohio or just Ohio in general, I had a really awesome opportunity this past weekend. If you follow on social media, you saw this, but I got to go up to Cleveland with my good friend, Percy Garner. Percy, I've mentioned this on the show before. He pitched for the Cleveland Indians in 2016. He was a second round pick by the Phillies. I forget what year. He was in the Major League Baseball system for many, many years. Made his pro debut with the Indians in 2016. Had a really good run there. And now, he's back here in my local hometown and we do podcasts and stuff together. We actually run the studio together. And I am the producer of his podcast, which is called 99 Mile Per Hour with Percy Garner. And we got to go up to Cleveland to record a special on-site episode in front of one of the Script Cleveland signs with Ohio State Buckeye legend and 14-year NFL veteran Ted Ginn Jr. It was an awesome experience. Ted Ginn Jr. is an awesome guy. He was a lot of fun to sit down and talk to. And he's just a real down-to-earth guy. He's not afraid to just kind of say things the way they are and talk about the realism of Cleveland, the city. I got a nice clip of him talking about being a Browns fan, which I'll play for you guys here in a minute. This is not actually on Percy's episode. This was before we started recording the actual episode. But if you guys want to see the full thing, head over on YouTube, search 99 mile per hour Percy Gardner, Percy with an I, Perci, and it'll come up. And, the most recent episode, once he publishes it, will be the interview with Ted Ginn Jr. But I'm going to just play this quick clip because he was talking about, being from Cleveland, being a Browns fan, and what, the Browns and just football in general really means to Cleveland and just Northeast Ohio overall.
You're being honored to, being in the Hall of Fame and stuff like that, which obviously is well deserved. But I kind of want to get in, like, have you been, because when I've been hearing you talk, you seem like, selfless. You're not really about like, hey, it's about me out here.
Yeah.
You always, especially, you can see that in your post-career.
Well, man, it's just where you come from. Like, I'm from Ohio. Ohio is not a cocky state, period. Like, the most cockiest state we probably do have is Ohio State. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's hard not to be because you guys kind of took the place. I know Cleveland Browns was a team, but Ohio State is really the football team for, no offense. He do a Browns podcast.
Yeah. But there's no offense to nobody. You know what I'm saying? I'm from right here. So that make me a Cleveland Browns fan. Like, the Browns is all we know. You going to see them every Sunday, 3, 5, or 19 when I was coming up.
True.
You get what I'm saying? So it wasn't like you was going to miss them. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's going to always be my forever team. Like, you get what I'm saying? I took a brick from the old stadium.
Really?
That's like, you get what I'm saying? Like it was meant for. Yeah. Dog pound, little stuff like that we can't create no more. I played in the league. You can't create that dog pound back in the 90s.
No, it ain't happening.
You know what I'm saying? Just the world don't allow it.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
It's different times.
Different times. You know what I'm saying? But, you know what I'm saying? Just being from this type of state, being from Cleveland, it's hard to be cocky. Like,
it's true.
Because is the representation of it. It's not always what you're trying to put out there. But you know what I'm saying? I come back and be cocky and nobody will like you. I come back and be humble and nobody will like you. Like, so there's no real true value in it to me. You know what I'm saying? Just be yourself. So I just try to be myself as much as I can. You know what I'm saying? Do the right things. You know what I'm saying? Because, we all can go that way whenever we want to. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So, you know what I'm saying? Just trying to remain who you are because Ohio tough too. You know what I'm saying? And Ohio tough to the point where it's hard for people to get behind people. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for us to build around here who ain't in that right area of building.
That's true. That's just being real, but that's true.
So that's it right there. That was, again, just an awesome experience. Big shout out. Thank you to Ted Ginn Jr. for sitting down with us, taking the time. He is supposed to be coming on to our show sometime here over the summer to talk about his induction into the National High School Football Hall of Fame. That's what we were up there to talk to him about. And I see if I can pull up the notes. I've actually got an interview with a couple of the guys from the National High School Football Hall of Fame later today. Going to record that, put it out later this week or this weekend for you guys. There's a big event coming up. The induction is next Saturday on the 8th. And it is just awesome. 14 of the 35 inductees this year are from Ohio. That's 40%. 23 out of the 35 inductees either played, coached, or had some sort of connection to Ohio, whether it was Ohio State, Kent State, or playing for the Cleveland Browns. And that's 65% of these National High School Football Hall of Fame inductees having either being from Ohio or having played on a prominent team right here in Ohio. So it's just really cool to hear all about that. And that's taking place up in Canton in the Hall of Fame city where football originated to begin with. So we don't talk about that enough. We are just right south of where football started here in America. So maybe I'll do some history next off season when I have some downtime, and I'll do a little history on football in Northeast Ohio, starting in Canton. And it's really cool. I'd have to obviously go through and do a little research to make sure I have all the facts correct, but it is just really cool to have football in this area. It just means a lot. And you can hear that from a guy like Ted Ginn Jr. when he talks about it. So again, if you want to see the full interview with Ted Ginn Jr., it was awesome. Go check it out. 99 Mile Per Hour with Percy Gardner on YouTube, or you can listen to it on Apple, Spotify, whatever. It's on there as well. And that's all I got for you guys today. Again, got more podcasts I'm recording later today. We're going to be talking to, it's not going to be the CEO. She's on a plane now. She won't be able to make the meeting, but we're going to be talking to the owner and the chief operating officer, I think, or something like it's the owner and his son of Guardian Sports, and they do the Guardian caps that you see the guys wearing on their helmets during practices. And this season, it will be the first one where guys can actually wear them during games in the NFL. I don't know how many of you guys knew that, but we are going to be talking to them about that. And then you guys will get to see that interview later on this week. So I hope everybody already has had a great week. Have a great weekend coming up. And again, just stay plugged into what the Browns are doing. Stay plugged into the Dogs podcast, where we're coming to you with more content to make sure that you have stuff to watch and listen to, and just keep tabs on what's going on with our favorite team in the world, the Cleveland freaking Browns. It's going to be an awesome season. Fan hard, don't fan scared, and just continue to walk this journey with us. It's been a ton of fun. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, like and subscribe on YouTube, follow the channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of these new episodes, any of these new interviews that will be coming out shortly. We've had a lot of players on recently, and we do have a lot of feelers out there for more players in the future. Again, we're trying to link up with other guys in this National High School Football Hall of Fame as well, guys like Terrell Pryor and Josh Cribbs and things like that as well. So stay tuned. We're going to bring you guys more content. And as always, until I see you guys in the next one, let's go Browns. This episode is brought to you by Manly Bands. Dog Pack, if you followed the show for a while, you know that I recently got married. I got my wedding band at Manly Bands. Now, I opted for something a little more simple, so I just got a plain, simple, gold, polished band from Manly Bands, but that's not everybody. And I'm telling you, they've got so many cool different designs and materials available. They've got bands made out of Jack Daniel's whiskey barrels, meteorites, even dinosaur bones. It's so cool. Just head to manlybands.com, check out the selection, see what they have. They've even got build your own bands if you want to make a custom style band for yourself. And right now, use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, at manlybands.com when you check out, and you'll get 25% off your order. 25% is a big deal. So make sure, if you guys are looking for a new wedding band, Blake mentioned last week or two on the show that, he's lost a lot of weight in the last year. And so his wedding band is a little too big for him. So he's thinking about getting a new one. And I told him, I said, just go to Manly Bands, see what they got. And the 25% off your order is such a great deal. You really can't beat it. So at least go check it out, see what they have. They've got some really cool stuff. And again, promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, if you decide to buy one, and you'll get 25% off of that purchase. If you don't know your ring size, you can order a free ring size guide. They'll ship it straight to you. You can punch out the little rings and put them on your finger to see which size fits you best. And then every single band you order comes with a free silicone ring for whenever you want to work out or go swimming or whatever you need a silicone band for. You get one for free shipped with your purchase of a Manly Band from manlybands.com. So check it out. Again, manlybands.com. Use promo code DAWGS for 25% off your order.